Our final session is going to be looking at geodesign applied to large-scale development, large projects. And our first speaker is Donald Monti, who's president and CEO of Renaissance Downtowns. He's had over 35 years of experience in development, construction, and management, most of it in the northeastern United States. He instituted the nation's first grassroots social networking campaign for public outreach, crowdsourced placemaking. And considers himself a recovered developer. I believe that's the term, and he's going to be talking on is Suburban Sprawl dead? So please welcome Don Monti.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am not Don Monti. Somehow he has about 2 decades on me and many more hair follicles, but that's how life goes. I just wanted to introduce and do a short video clip first, and I want to say that I've been with Don for about 10 years now, and honestly, he's a complete technophobe. I mean, we're talking, could barely turn a computer on, and you're probably sitting there thinking, what the heck is this guy doing talking to you all at this convention of all places, which is so technology-driven? And at the end of the day, while he's a proud walking anachronism, I think it's not really a deterrent or a defect in any way. It's actually a benefit to us. Well, at least to him. For us, it drives us crazy because when we go to Don and say, this simply is not possible, he says, well, when can it be done? And what that has enabled us to do is move some mountains and take a path that normally you might not normally take because you'd say, we just can't get there. You know, so what we want to do in terms of bringing this private sector experience to the table is share how we have moved some of these mountains and, more importantly, how we think we're really fostering positive change at the implementation stage. And before I formally introduce Don, I just want to run through a quick video, something that we actually presented to about 250 world leaders in Dubai about a year ago at the World Energy and Water Forum. And hopefully, as we beg them to find a different and more responsible way to create a built form, we can work together with you all to do the same.
From the dawn of mankind, we've seen mobility patterns evolve. We took a wrong turn and continued down that road for 70 years to the crisis that mankind faces today. This evolution has had catastrophic effects on both the environment and the quality of life. And it all began in our own backyard, Long Island, the birthplace of sprawl. Endless sprawl. We must think of change as truly an opportunity to do things better. So how do we do that? We begin by looking in our suburban downtowns that have been disinvested and disenfranchised over the years, and not in what remains in our precious undeveloped green fields. These downtown opportunities must be focused around pedestrian-friendly, intermodal, transit-oriented, mixed-use development, dramatically reducing dependency on the automobile.
All right. Seem to be having some technical difficulties. If one of the gentlemen up there, I can either do this on a flash drive or, Don, if you want to sort of just jump on into it. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and do that. So, without further ado, someone that I think really wants to work with you all in order to move forward with this positive change, Don Monti.
Thanks, Brandon, and I can assure you that I do not have a speech impediment. You'll make that determination for yourselves over the next 10 minutes or so, but there was some powerful information in that video that hopefully I can impart with you, on a more personal basis. But I think what's important for me to start with is that I'm extremely impressed at what I've seen, certainly today, and what I've heard took place yesterday. And that may not mean very much to you folks, having been introduced as one of the few remaining technophobes in the world, but I am impressed. And what I find is that although I may not be conversant in your language technologically, I do understand the power that all of you bring to the table. But what I need to do is maybe bring a little different twist here today. And that twist has to do with kind of dumbing things down for folks like me. But that doesn't mean impeding what you folks do. It really means bringing it to a scale that is implementable by developers and by municipalities. So keep up the great work, and let me tell you a little bit about what we do. First, I want to thank Jack for hosting this wonderful event. Kevin and Greg both have been very helpful to Renaissance over the last 6 months, and hopefully many of you here today, when you hear about what we do, can be a part of this movement. So we may be entitled, all of us, to our own opinions, but certainly not to our own facts. And let's talk about some of those facts in terms of what the market wants. The market wants a holistic and comprehensive approach to downtown revitalization. So let's talk about what is the market demand. Well, that demand, believe it or not, is a 30% demand with a 2% supply. So, folks, it's out there. It's just not happening. Certainly not at the frequency we would like to see it. As a company, over the last 3 years, we have achieved master developer status in 6 municipalities, with another 4 by mid-year, bringing it to a total of 10. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but each municipality represents about $2 billion, that's with a B, of economic development and activity when done properly. So here's why we're here today. I'd like you to say hello to UNiS. Now, UNiS is someone that you're going to get to know through the next few moments, and UNiS stands for Urban Nodes in Suburbia, because we really need to think about how we're going to grow as a country. According to ULI, over the next 30 years, we're going to double our urban population. So what does that mean? We're going to go from 150 million people living in or about cities to 300 million. Now, where are they going to be? They're not going to be in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or San Francisco. Why? Because A, we can't fit them there. B, maybe they don't want to be there. And C, they probably can't afford to be there. So we need to really get to know UNiS a little better, because that growth in this country is going to be in our suburbs. Now, let's talk about some of UNiS's body parts, okay? Ladies, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere in particular other than to show you something that I think is very important, the UNiS process, okay? And she does have a process. That process starts with something that's near and dear to all of you, and that's visualization technology. Also, a part of that process has to do with analytical data, something I'm sure has been talked about over the last couple of days. We combine that with green technology. Again, all near and dear to all of us. Now, here's where we get a little bit sidetracked, and I don't mean that, certainly not with the form-based code part of this, but form-based code I know was talked about a little bit before, but now we get into the social health and wellness piece of UNiS, the community benefits portion of UNiS, the land use and transportation piece, and last but not least, and without this, folks, nothing, and I mean nothing, happens. That is crowdsourced placemaking. Because I can't tell you how many municipalities I go into where the mayor will open up the closet and show me a master plan where the dust is thicker than the plan. Why? Because of a lack of implementation. Either no municipal will, no community stakeholder will. Well, we have figured out a way to change that, because unless that happens, all these great ideas and all these thoughts that are being thrown around the last couple of days are going to, in many instances, remain just that. So, I need to take those first 3 slices, which are very important. And mind you, we created this piece. So I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that are going to say, you know, where'd this come from? I mean, you know, SimCity is something that is difficult for me to relate to. So bear with me in this analogy piece, because what I'm about to show you is the village of Hempstead. That village and that opportunity that you see, which is a bunch of parking lots, is much of what suburban America is today. And it's those parking lots where the jewelry lies. That's where the opportunities lie. But what we need to do is figure out a way to get this process moving quicker. How do we move it quicker? Because in the normal way of doing business, you meet with a municipality, you give your pitch, 3 months later you come back, and what happens? You have to reintroduce yourself, dust off everybody's thoughts. What we are looking to create here, in conjunction with the folks I mentioned before, with Esri, with CyberCity, with Critigen, is to create something that gives instant information, which equates to instant gratification. So again, a very dumbed down version of this is to say, okay, how do we deal with the social, environmental, and economic impacts? And again, we don't need another technical glitch here, but Brandon, is there a reason why we're not coming in the way we should? Okay. Well, listen, you know what they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So we'll just keep moving along. But essentially, what the tool is supposed to do is have buildings rise immediately. As those buildings rise, what we end up showing is the analytical data that rises along with it. So as the building heights either go up or go down, the data changes on the fly. Now, what's important about that? What's important is that if we have a group of community stakeholders, along with the municipality and a developer, sitting around a table in 1 week's time, we can say, here's what your city or town can look like. Here's what the impacts, the triple bottom line impacts, social, environmental, and economic impacts are. Mayor says, well, could we take that 10-story building and drop it down to 6? Can we do this? Can we do that? Well, guess what? You drop that 10 down to 6, you just lost $500,000 of revenue. Mayor says, you know, bring it back up. It didn't look so bad. But that can only happen when you have this kind of information flow happening quickly. Now, another piece of it is green building designs, green roofs. Everything that we're talking about here is something that we want to see happen on the fly. And it's through that process that we're going to see a stimulus package created in this country. Because we're doing 10, guess what? We can do the need for this product and the need to put 150 million people. This is the development model, folks, not for the next 5 years, but for the next 100 years. So what we're looking at is, and if we go back to the next slice, the form-based code. Now, why is that important to be a part of UNiS? It's important because of the benefits that come about through zoning. We come up with an optional overlay zone, which means that if you opt into the zone, you play by those rules. If you want to play by the old rules, go right ahead, which means you basically can't do anything. Then we regulate public amenities. We incentivize property owners. And what does that mean? A typical downtown where this development is going to take place is made up of disaggregated ownership, meaning a 200-foot main street may have 10 different owners. Well, if you're going to do something holistic and comprehensive in a downtown, you cannot just develop municipal properties. It must be an inclusionary process. It must involve everyone. You need to give those private property owners and those businesses that have been hemorrhaging, in some instances for 40 years in these disadvantaged downtowns, the ability to participate in this revitalization. This is very important to us. And it mandates green building principles also if you want to play in this zone. Now, I'm not going to say that one zone fits all municipalities, because it doesn't, obviously. But one principle does fit all municipalities: the principle of social, economic, and environmental responsibility. And if we follow those principles, each zoning code in each municipality is going to look very much the same. So, again, we need to build from within. And build from within has to do with the people that live there. Assure them that they have opportunities in these communities. Assure them of diversity. Ensure them of an inclusionary, not an exclusionary process. And getting back to the private property owners, what's really important is this. In our shop and in our culture, the word eminent domain does not exist. Forget about, whether it's legal or it's not. Just from a moral standpoint, it doesn't exist. There are ways of doing things that don't involve sell at this price or will get the municipality to condemn you. This happens every single day. It happens in my backyard. I will not be a part of that. And the reason I won't be a part of it is because I don't want to be a part of 10 years of litigation. I don't want to be a part of all the negative comments and negative impacts that has. I want to be a part of a process that says, you know what? Let's work together. Partner with the municipality, partner with the property owners. Let's make this one big mission for working together. So, again, whether it be setbacks or it be street walls or it be, creating value through proper design, all of this comes about through the proper form-based code. And here's an example of A, B, C, and D, where each one of these folks individually can do nothing, but collectively can create something like this. So in the village of Hempstead, the interesting piece is that we are doing an 80% teardown with no eminent domain. Imagine that. Imagine taking a 100-acre downtown, and 80% of it is designated as what we call soft sites. A soft site means that it's either land that's available for development or property that should be knocked down and started all over again. Now, what a great thing if somebody's in that space and we have a relocation program for them. Again, inclusionary, not exclusionary. But this is how we need to rebuild this country. Get rid of that 1- and 2-story crap. It doesn't belong. Replace it with vibrancy. And you can only get vibrancy when you create critical mass. You can only get critical mass when you have lots of people living in your downtowns. So, the next piece, the social health and wellness part, I'll try to go through this a little quicker, but imagine if my video didn't go bad. Then I'd really be on a time crunch here. But increase public safety, how do we do that? You know what? Police don't mean safety in communities. Eyes on the street mean safety. 24/7 environments don't come from cops patrolling the streets. They come from people watching, neighborhood watch. And the next thing is a sense of community. What I'm talking about here, folks, is not revolutionary. This is really a return to our roots. It's how this country was founded. It was founded on traditional neighborhoods, on people saying hello to one another, on folks walking everywhere, more social interaction, okay? Socioeconomic barriers. I mean, think of this. Think of somebody walking down the street in a disadvantaged community. What do they look like usually? They're walking down. Why are they walking down? Because they're scared, and they have a right to be. So what we want them to do is walk with their eyes looking straight ahead. Say hello to somebody. Why? Because this actually has an effect. There were studies that have shown it affects your heart rate, your blood pressure, everything. So what we want to do is create these livable, healthy communities that give people a sense of pride, make them feel good, make them feel better. Also, health pieces with obesity, with diabetes. These are all things that foster healthier lifestyles. So everything we're doing revolves back to that triple bottom line. Community benefits agreement, and we're almost done with the pie here, but this is also huge. Community benefits agreement means one thing. These folks that live in these communities need to stay there. This needs to be an organic process. And, you know, people mention the word affordable housing. Okay, well, you know what? I like to use the term attainable housing. And why? It's bad enough you can't afford it. Somebody's going to say, you live in affordable housing? Come on now, let's give people a break. You know, whatever your economic sphere is, you know what? If you make more money, you spend more money. So essentially what we're saying is give people dignity and respect and give them housing choices. Why? Don't say how much a square foot. You say how much can this community afford? And then you design units. And I'm not saying micro units, but you bring unit scale down so that people can afford to live there, where the downtown becomes the biggest amenity in that community and an extension of their living area. So it's not walking downstairs and finding the same street that makes you walk with your head down. It's walking downstairs and finding ethnic restaurants, finding jazz clubs, finding the kind of activity that makes you want to live there and makes you want to go back to your apartment and call that your home. So the community benefits agreement, again, this has to do not only with job creation, but construction opportunities, permanent job opportunities. In communities that we work with, we say 25% is our goal. 25% goal to hire contractors, people, and folks for permanent jobs, and it's working wonderfully. Land use and transportation, okay? We've got to marry them. We really do. And this is really something that I believe so strongly in, that every one of our communities either has to have rail or has to have rail resumption or has to have a commitment for future rail. So, you know what? I'm not saying this is California because this is New York and this is everywhere else. But we do a real good job of this and we do a real bad job of this. So let's make this turn into this. And the way we do that is through TOD development. But last but not least, and this is the game changer, folks, none of this happens without public support. None of it happens without community input and support. So we've come up with a patent-pending process called crowdsourced placemaking. Because you know what? This is your Tuesday night that most of you are accustomed to seeing. Okay? And what we've done is we've eliminated that. We've eliminated it with social networking. And that social networking is not something that happens every 4 years in an election where 120 million people vote and then they go to sleep for the next 4 years. We convert apathy to energy. We convert that silent majority of folks that really don't come out unless social networking becomes a part of it. So if you don't manage the conversation, it's going to manage you. So basically, this crowdsourcing, again, it's not a charrette because charrettes don't work. What it is it's a very transparent social networking process. It involves online and community meetups. The online piece is very important. What people do is they sign a triple bottom line agreement electronically that the ideas that they post are environmentally, socially, and economically responsible. Well, guess what? If they aren't, who would want to do them? And we follow that with studies for these ideas. And the ones that work are the ones that we do. The ones that don't work, we look to work with the community to come up with certain alternatives. This was the biggest vote getter in one of our communities, a public piazza. That public piazza and that community involvement brought out 20,000 people for a one-day event in a city of 61,000 people. That's the power of social networking when done right. It also leads to bipartisan support. Every community we're in, It's a 5-0 or a 7-0 vote. Why? Because it's hard for folks to say no to things that are triple bottom line. So again, we're looking to combine this UNiS platform with ArcGIS. We're well on our way in Hempstead. Again, I told you an 80% makeover, but look at this, 36 months average time in our area for approvals. With this tool, 6 months. Imagine that, rebuilding this country, one community at a time with a 6-month entitlement process. Okay? This, folks, is a true stimulus package. It's not cars for clunkers. It's not $8,000 home buy downs. It's something that will last, and it will last for the next 50 or 70 years, which is how long it took us to get into this mess. And we can't pave our way out of it. You know, we need to fix roads. We need to fix bridges, obviously, but that's not infrastructure development. You don't pave your way out of this. You need to build vertically. You need to have structured parking. You need to have the kinds of things that enable us to rebuild our suburban downtowns. So just one downtown, look at these benefits. It's amazing. Imagine 500 of them. And who knows how many we need. This is just one downtown and what it represents in economic development. So here's what we're looking at. Hempstead, 100 years ago. Unfortunately, Hempstead and many other communities today. Hempstead tomorrow. So what we look at is, as a result of all these parts, if we bring them together and show that the whole becomes so much greater than the sum of the parts, we look at change not as a challenge, but as an opportunity to do things better. So help us as a company make the world a better place for all. Thank you.